Welcome to the Rinkside Rundown podcast, showcasing the incredible women's hockey players from around the world through compelling interviews and discussions alongside your host, Chris Sinclair. Hello and welcome back to the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Today, I am absolutely excited to be joined by the one and only Morgan Jackson, a forward with Northeastern University. Morgan, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been great. We've been chatting for a little bit, and this is great to finally have you on. So I'm excited to be able to dive in, talk a little bit about your early career, what got you started, what made you fall in love with hockey, and then we get to talk about your collegiate career and maybe what's next. How does that sound?
Awesome.
All right.
So yeah, truly, my parents, my oldest brother, Nick, he is 2 years older than me. He started playing hockey. And then my parents kind of just threw me in the sport with my twin brother, Matthew. And we just started playing out for fun when I was 4. So we started at a pretty young age. And after that, it's been super fun. I've always just loved the ice. So after that, it's just really taken off for the love of the game. So.
What was it about, lacing up those skates and hitting the ice that really not only drew you to the sport, but also has kept you in the sport?
I think just it's kind of like another environment, like another place to go away from everything. And it's yes, even at school, yes, I have hockey after school. I'm so excited for practice. I just get to go take my mind off everything. Put on your gear, put on the skates, step on the ice. It's so fun. It's awesome. I love it.
And one of the things that I think, I've shared this before, but one of the things that I think is really underappreciated or maybe undervalued, at least certainly from outside of a hockey family, is just how much family contributes to, not only you getting started, as you've mentioned, but also that motivation throughout your career and that support throughout your career. Could you maybe just talk a little bit about, you've mentioned a little bit about the impact that your brothers had on you early on, but maybe also as you've continued your career, now you're collegiate, how important has family been throughout your hockey career?
To be honest, they've been my stepping stones. They've been my day one. They're what pushed me to be better. They're the people, like my parents, they take me to the rink. Even at home, they're the ones who push me to get out of bed, to go do those workouts. They're the ones who I can talk to, and they're the people I trust the most. So they're always there. Even here, now that I'm at college, that I'm at Northeastern, no matter how far they are away from me, I still know that they're just one phone call away. And I love talking to them, and I miss them every day, because I know obviously they're not here with me, so it's definitely a bit hard because I was so used to having my parents close to me. But I think I'll always know that they're right here. And even seeing them at games, standing at the glass, and I like looking over, seeing their support, it means a lot. And even coming out from the dressing room after games and seeing them, giving them a big hug, it's what keeps me going. They're my reason why I'm here, and they've done so much for me. So I'm just super grateful for them and for my whole family, even my grandparents, them coming to watch games. They're everything for hockey. They've been there forever. So
I guess and forgive me, I always I feel like this is a big part that isn't necessarily, again, shared when it comes to being a hockey player, is just that family support.
Yeah.
So it's always something that really I love talking about. And it's, what does it mean to you when you look out in the stands and you see family there, and that it wasn't just like, obviously early on they're driving to and from the rink. It's at least at times,
Hmm.
locally, it's a local rink. There are going to be longer drives where they have to drive you somewhere else, but
Yeah.
when you know that they've flown to see you,
Hmm.
like that they had to take time, potentially take time off of work, all
Yeah.
those sorts of things. When you look up in the stands and you know what they've had to do for you, what does it
Hmm.
mean to you? How does that make you feel?
This is starting to make me emotional. Um, but yeah, especially when I was at Worlds and my mom flew out to Sweden and to Switzerland to support me. Um, it was amazing. Like she was wearing the Team Canada hat, and I knew like scoring, helping the team win, um, and seeing her in the stands and her like standing up and cheering. Um, I don't know. It can't get any better than that, than having your support. I mean, sorry, your parents support you. Um, I'm just so grateful for that. And even like my brothers who are watching at home and my dad, they would always text and call, and I knew like they were by my side. And I think it just means so much since they've been there since the start, and they know me, and they know like how I play, how I feel. So it's amazing.
Yeah, it's got to feel good to know that you have that support behind you. And like you said, that there are these people that are there that know you, that
Yeah.
know, like, oh, she might be feeling this way, she might be feeling that way, and will give
Yeah.
you the support that you need in that
Hmm.
exact moment. Is that fair to say?
Yes, they're the ones I talk to who can listen without judging,
Mm.
right? Who I can rant to about problems or emotions I'm feeling, that I just sometimes don't know who else to tell. So,
Okay, well, and we're going to get into some of those bigger moments that you've been through, and how we can tie that back to just how important it is to have that great support system. But I also want to know, as you reflect on your career, you've had some incredible opportunities, obviously great success in your junior career, being able, and we're going to get into representing Canada, and now into at Northeastern. Um, but as you reflect on your career, what would you say are some of the challenges that you face? And those can be challenges maybe financially off the ice.
mhm.
That's obviously a big hurdle when it comes to hockey. Hopefully that will change, especially with women's hockey. That can be something on the ice as well. What were some of those challenges that you feel like you faced throughout your career?
Yeah. So, um, on Team Canada, my first year, um, I guess I was more of the player uh, that helped, definitely helped, but I was looking up to others, definitely,
Mm.
to put it in a perspective. Um, and there were so many amazing players that it was harder for me to compete. And it was my first year. I know nothing. Uh, I've never been at that level before. So just because I was being like the fourth line or at the bottom, but still like I think I don't even know if it's a challenge, but I think it was a lesson more, that taught me to play in like your own, you have your own reason why you're there, your role why you're there. And I think even the coaches were so well supporting that and talking about um being an importance on the team no matter what position you are. I think that helped me through it, um, to go on into my second year and help be more of a leader, instead of someone who is looking up to people the first year. So I found that was a great life lesson. Knowing where you fit in on a team, um, was definitely a challenge for me at the start, my first year playing on Team Canada. Um, Another challenge was just kind of balancing school and hockey, because throughout the season definitely becomes a lot. And I was at a boarding school, so school was a lot. But I think that is just like I said, where I learn how I am and how I deal with those situations. So overall, I think it helps me learn more about myself. But I think it was definitely a challenge playing so much hockey. And right when I came back from Worlds the first year, and we had to go play a game, I think it was like the following weekend, we had to play 2 or 3 games again, right back with my league team. And so I think even switching like the levels too was still like a challenge, but I think being able to adapt to whatever was, I think, something I had to overcome too. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't mean to make this sound like a therapy session, although I feel like that's kind of what the direction that the early part of this conversation has gone in. But when you think about those, what you had to overcome, obviously being fourth liner, the extra forward, things like that with Team Canada and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that it's easy? I mean, I was going to say it's easy to say how that shaped you as a player, but I actually want to know, it's not easy. It isn't easy, but I want to know, how did that time shape you as a person?
Yeah. I think right off the bat, it was like kind of like, whoa, like, because you're so used to your club team, you're the one like helping your team. I think we all did, but then I think coming to it, I think it kind of made you realize maybe the other players, maybe back home, who weren't getting as much ice time, you felt like you know how they feel. And so when I came back to my club team, some players like who were in my position, I totally felt for them. I would talk to them, and I think it just made me understand more, I guess, like I said, how they feel. And I'm like, wow, like, yeah, obviously it's not the best feeling, but it's a way of being able to like overcome it and know that you're still valued and still an amazing hockey player, no matter what.
Well, that was a good answer. That was a good answer.
Awesome.
Yeah, you passed therapy so far, so that's great. Yes. So as you've kind of mentioned, family has been really important to you throughout your career. I want to expand that and maybe like let's talk about like, who were some of those role models and influences that you had? And this could be family, this could be fellow female hockey players, this could be like wherever you want to take this.
Yeah.
Who were some of those role models and influences throughout your career, and maybe why, obviously?
Yeah. So growing up, I guess I played boys hockey. So to be honest, I didn't know much about women's hockey. Like I knew like the big names like Poulin, and like Jenner and stuff. But kind of growing up, I just looked at, I guess, male role models. Even just like the guys who are higher up, I was like, wow, like I wish I could skate like them, shoot as hard as them. But then when I got to know more of the women's side, watching the female like U18 when I was younger. I was like, wow, I wish I could play there, like watching it on TV. And then I was fortunate enough to get invited there. And when I got there, my first year in Calgary, the national women's team was there. And the first day we had a meeting with everyone, and I sat down in a chair with the teammate next to me, and Poulin came up and sat next to us, and she introduced herself, and she's like, I'm Pula, and we were like, we know. But I think she's so humble, and I think she's not only like a role model on the ice, because I definitely saw her, watched her play at the camp, and I was like, wow. And even her, or like Jen Gardner is an amazing player, but very kind too. But I thought, like, wow, that's so cool that you can be this humble, yet like probably like the best women's player in the world too at the same time. So I thought that was like, wow, she is definitely like someone I want to be like when I'm older, like be such an amazing hockey player, but yet such a humble player that everyone's like, yeah, I haven't heard one bad thing about them, kind of. But also I wanted to take this another way, not another way, but I guess kind of my other role models, they're like smaller role models. So when I train at home, it's like with boys, with guys, with men, I guess, like junior players, and they're like amazing hockey players. And I think even just like watching them on the ice, it like makes me want to be better too when I'm with them. So I guess watching how they like hold their stick or shoot harder, I think even those are just smaller role models. But yeah, I don't tell them that, but
secret safe with me, don't worry.
Yeah.
Secret safe. Yeah. They'll never know. I won't tell them. When you think back to your, and I love that story of a player like Poulin. Obviously she's been for many generations, many players, she is sort of that North Star, that beacon. How surreal was it to be like, no, I know who you are. Like, you're now like, you're here and I'm here and we're talking. And like, how surreal was that experience? How surreal was it to be in that same space as someone on the level of a Poulin?
It was kind of not scary, but like I'm pretty sure I was sweating a lot. But and like when you're sitting in a chair next to them, you're like, oh, I don't want to take up too much space, like be in their space. But it was so cool. After I think my teammate and I, we were gonna get a photo with her, but we were too nervous to ask her. But it was very cool, and I don't know, I think I'll remember that forever. So
I think that for me, the defining moment of your explanation there was the moment where you didn't have anything to say, because that brought me into that moment where you were like, you're probably speechless, right? You're like, Poulin's right here. She's literally right there, like right there. I don't know what to say to her now, and I don't know what to say reflecting on that moment. And there was that moment where you were just like, how do you talk about that kind of experience when it's just like this? I never thought in a million years that I would be sitting right next to Poulin, right?
Yeah,
like,
especially on the first day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That I've never been to. No
that bar was set real high. That bar was set.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the things that's really great, and I've had a lot of these conversations where, especially when it comes to women's hockey, and I think this is one of the reasons that women's hockey is such an incredible sport, is that and you've just kind of described a little bit of that, where like women's hockey players, they just want to connect. They want to give back. They want to, they just want to like teach all these sorts of things. It's a great community. And speaking of community, when you think about, specifically to you, when it comes to your career,
mm-hmm.
What does it mean to you to have the opportunity to know, like, especially now, like women and future generations, they're looking at you as inspiration. They're looking at you as being, I want to get to Morgan Jackson's level. I want to get to her. I want to learn more from her. I want to follow her. she's an inspiration to me. What does it mean to be able to know that you are an inspiration, but also that you have the opportunity to connect with the community, give back to the community, and stay connected to that community?
Yeah. I think it means, well, it certainly means so much. I think, like, growing up, like I said, like, you have those older people who are like amazing hockey players, and it's like crazy to think that like you're the one now that people watch and people are like, wow, like this person, like I want to be like her. And even in my town, so in my community, we never had like a girls team growing up. But I went back there and to help coach, and now they have this girls team who compete in this league now back in my small town. So watching these girls play and become like so happy, and they're, you know, like 9, 8, around that age, it almost like makes me emotional because I'm like, wow, like the game is growing. And I think women's hockey, and I am hoping that I helped out, help these girls like enjoy hockey and have someone to look up to in the town, but not only in the town, in the country, to have someone. That's what I want to bring, is someone who they can look up to, and I think that's just a truly amazing quality if I can help others enjoy hockey
Just as much as you do, right?
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've talked about it a little bit, but I want to dive into it a little bit more, is your time with Team Canada, right?
Yeah.
So you've had an opportunity to represent your country. And I think the obvious route here is like, tell me about your game. We're going to get into that a little bit later on in the fun 20 questions segment of the show. But I actually want to know, first and foremost, and this may be a cliched question, so forgive me for asking it, but what did it feel like to get that call? Or I've also heard that sometimes it's also an email. But how did it feel to get that notice? We'll call it a notice saying
Okay.
that you've made the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was more of the build up too. After the series, in the summer, they were like, the team always changes, like you don't know. So there was always that pressure to have a great start to the season. And then that build up towards, I think it was in December, the call, I think around the start of December, till that day, the whole day, I was in class. I remember like, or in bio, I was just like, kept checking my phone. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the day I know if I'm either going to Sweden or not. And I just kept checking my phone, and then finally classes were over and I went back to my boarding house. Still like nothing yet. And I like texted my friends. I'm like, did you hear anything? And they're like, no, not yet. But then my phone started ringing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this could go either way. It's like, here we go. And then the head coach, Courtney Kessel, called me, and she told me I made the team. And it was such like a relief and an exciting moment. And it's like, oh my gosh, I get to go. Like, it's so amazing that so I'm super close with my head coach there. And we're at a boarding school, so she lives on campus. So I actually sped walk over to her house in the snow, and knocked on her door and told her the good news, and she gave me a hug, and I think it was great to share that moment with her. But yeah, so it was a lot the first time. So yeah.
I'm actually just impressed because I feel like I've truthfully never been in any sort of equivalent scenario. So this is maybe me just projecting, but I feel like I would not be able to recall any moment from that day, because I would just be so focused on like waiting for that call.
Yeah.
You know? So
no, yeah,
good for you.
Totally. You're totally right. but then there's like those moments like that you remember, like, oh my, like how you feel in that moment, I guess.
And
That I remembered.
speed
Yeah.
walking over to your coach's. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's those little things, right?
Yeah. I think I fell on the way over too in the snow.
Yeah.
I
Well,
slipped.
you were walking so fast, you got to get over there, right? So
Yeah.
that's totally fair. So, what is it for the rest of us who don't have the opportunity to represent our country? What does it
Mhm.
mean to you to actually be able to like that, and we can talk about any of the times that you've had the opportunity to represent Canada, but what does
Mhm.
it mean to put that jersey on, to put like to know that you're playing for your country? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, like you look down at the jersey, and I think you're not only representing like the last name on your jersey or the leaf, but it's like everything like from the past that's came up to that point. Like you're representing like all the coaches, all the family, all the friends, and the teammates who's helped you work towards that goal. That's like all on there on the jersey. Um, that kind of it's kind of like the build up, kind of like from all those years, and then you like finally, not finally, but you get like the opportunity to put it on, and it's like, wow, like all my hard work, all that support that I got, like it's like it's on me, like the national,
Mm.
the flag, like the leaf, and I think it means a lot. And even like the jerseys, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to ruin it too. Um, but it's super cool. I actually have it in my room here too. I brought it with me.
And as
So
you
yeah.
should, as you should, as you should. I want to. It's actually a perfect segue because I think it's one thing to prepare for, maybe a preseason game or a regular season game or a playoff
Mhm.
game. Not to say that one is more than the others, but how do you like? How do you prepare mentally for, especially the first time you had an opportunity to represent your country? How do you prepare for that and not be like, as you mentioned, it's like you're looking down, it's like that's the maple leaf right there.
Like
Uh,
right there.
oh, no
Yeah.
pressure. You're like,
Yeah.
how do you prepare for that, and how do you like just not feel, as you've mentioned, like there's so much behind you, right? With all the
Mhm.
coaches, the prior coaches, players, all those sorts of people, and an entire, not to mention country, also there. How do you prepare for that mentally?
So I think like my first year that I was there, I was kind of learning uh myself and how I would prepare best for a game. Um, and I think what I've learned how I like to prepare is to relax, actually, to watch some Netflix, and kind of even like in warm up, like talk to my friends, joke around, even when we're on the ice, because like you have your warm up and then you go off. So I think in that warm up, still just like, like let loose, talk to your friends. That was my biggest way of um, I find the way that I play at my best is when I'm happy and when I'm not all like
Mm.
tied up, kind of. But also before games, I do like to spend a bit of time on my own and get into a routine. I think that is also like the biggest part. Get a coffee, go for a walk on my own. That was kind of my routine at uh, at Worlds. Um, so I think, yeah, getting in a routine, and just letting, not letting loose, but kind of relaxing and just like get the weight off your shoulders, kind of is how is how I found like I coped best with preparing before a game. So
I love, and so once again, you've set me up with the perfect segue. So I appreciate this.
awesome.
Um, so thank you. Um, When you reflect on those experiences that you've had with Canada, I want to know, like, obviously there's the on ice, and that's not to take away from the success on ice. I don't want to do that. But
Mm.
I think it's always interesting to talk about, like, what are some of your favorite memories and your favorite memories and experiences from being able to represent your country. And we can absolutely, we can go on ice, but I also want to hear, like, off ice. Like, what were some, you've mentioned being able to, like, grab a coffee, just like
Mhm.
do your own thing, but what were some of those favorite memories and moments for you during your international career?
So probably it was definitely probably like the meals,
Mm,
eating
good
like
answer.
it could be after practice or after like a game when you just be sitting around the table and kind of joking around no matter what we were talking about. Um, I think was a lot of fun, or even on the bus too. On the way to a practice or something, you just be talking about the most random stuff. Um, but I think, but yeah, even like on ice too. Um, Kind of like singing "Oh Canada" at the blue line. Um, I think is also like an awesome feeling. This is making me miss it, but yeah, with your teammates, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by sports nutritionist Melissa Bufunos of MB Performance Nutrition. As a former competitive hockey player turned nutritionist, Melissa's mission is to help the next generation of hockey players optimize their diets and health so they can perform their best both on and off the ice. Ready to dominate on the ice? Melissa's new course, The Hockey Nutrition Blueprint, is available now. If you're serious about learning how nutrition can impact performance and building actionable nutrition strategies based on your unique needs as an elite hockey player, learn more and sign up at melissabufunos.com/course. That's MELISSABOUFOUNOS.com/course. And make sure to use code Rinkside to save $50 off the regular price. Thank you to Melissa Bufunos for sponsoring this episode. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, I can tell by the giant smile on your face. Um, and those are like, again, like, it's never to take away from the success that you had on the ice, but it's always fun to just, like, we as spectators see only what happens on the ice, but we
Yeah.
don't have the opportunity to be like, what do they do when they're not on the ice? Like, what kind of, like, what are the thing, like, enjoying a
Yeah.
coffee and just walking by yourself and just, like, listening to some music and stuff like that. Don't answer too many questions because a lot of that's going to come up later. But
Okay.
but it's like, that's one of the things that I really enjoy about that question. It's just like, it's just so much
Yeah.
fun to get to know you off the ice, because we see how incredible you are on the ice. Not to
Thank
toot
you.
your own horn here, but
Thank you.
I'll do it. I'll do it. As we look, and we've talked about what got you into hockey. We've talked about how important family's been for you.
Mhm.
We've talked about your incredible international career that will inevitably continue as we move forward. Yeah, exactly. Now the next step for you is your collegiate career.
Mhm.
Could you, especially, there are a lot, obviously there are a lot of questions I want to ask around this, but when it comes to your collegiate career, let's start with, what was it about Northeastern that drew you to that, and maybe how you selected Northeastern as being the your next step in your career?
Yeah. So I talked to a few schools, but I think I went out and visited two. Northeastern was one of them, um, and another one in the Boston area. But I think overall, I love the campus here. It was a great campus feel, and also right off the bat, talking to the coaches, Nick Carpenino, I got I loved talking to him. So when I came out here, he was super nice, super friendly. I love the way the coach's dynamic was, and the arena. You could just see yourself playing there. I found that. So I think that was overall, it was like you could feel kind of that you could like kind of see yourself playing there, I found. So I think that was kind of what led me to the decision. But I think it was definitely a hard decision choosing what school to go to, because it's like the next 4 years of your life. So it's definitely a big decision to make.
Well, not to mention, and also just a little add on there, like Northeastern, it's not too shabby a program out there. So there's also that too, right? So
Yeah.
when you think back, and this is a question I always like to ask Canadians who have chosen to go D1 or NCAA. When you think back, was there ever a moment where you were like, you know what, maybe I'll stay in Canada? Or has it always been, I know that the youth sports program has, let's be honest, it's getting better, but it is certainly not as well established as the American programs are, which I may have just answered my own question there. But could you maybe talk a little bit about like what went into your decision to say, I'm going to go D1 as opposed to U Sports? What is now U Sports? It hasn't always been known as U Sports, but what is now U Sports?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at all the players that are in the Division One program with NCAA, and I think if you want to be the best, I think you have to play with the best players. So I think I didn't really focus, to be honest, at any U Sport schools. I knew I was gonna have to go far away from home no matter what. So choosing a school in the U.S., I knew that the compete was gonna be very hard, and I think it was gonna push me to be a better hockey player, competing with the top players, probably in the world. So I think that I don't think there was much of a doubt choosing to go to a NCAA school.
Okay, so I need to know,
Yeah.
what's it been like to make that transition from being in Canada
Yeah.
and adjusting to life in I mean, it's a little bit of a new process for you, but what's it been like to be able to transition from living in Canada, being close to home, and now the opposite, not living in Canada and not being close to home? What's that been like for you, and how are you feeling at this point?
I'd say it's definitely like it's a whole new perspective of the world, other side of the East Coast now. But I think so it's definitely a big transition, but I was being at a boarding school, kind of being independent, going to the gym, walking around, I think really helped me prepare for going off to college, to university. But I mean, I haven't started classes yet, but I think I've been kind of being pushed to be independent over there. So I think here it's like a different setting, but I've found it's been smoother than I thought it would go. So I think that definitely helped a lot. But yeah, great change.
Yeah,
big change, but
yeah, big change, but I mean, you're a part of an incredible program there, and obviously you've had great success throughout your career, and it sounds like the family side of things, like they've got you, like you have such an incredible support system in there, so in your corner, so it's gonna be fine. You're gonna be great.
Yeah, I don't think, but yeah, so far it's been pretty good. I've been here pretty early, so I think it's giving time to adjust, walk around, and see where everything is, where I need to go, where I need to be. So far, so Yeah, so far so good.
It's the same approach I took when I went to university, although for
Yeah,
very different reasons. I went early so that I could understand like where do I need to go, where are classes, and it's just
yeah.
like there's a certain, especially when you're going somewhere new. Now I stayed in Canada, but
Hmm.
it's like that. There's a little bit there are so many things you can't control. It's
Yeah.
nice to know like, okay, listen, I know that's the study hall, that's the library, that's the
Hmm.
cafeteria. You kind of get an idea as to where everything is, so that
Definitely.
those are things that are not weighing on you. You can just focus on just like being in the moment and continuing your hockey career, which is going to be super exciting to follow along for. And
Totally. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
So you know as we kind of look at your future, I
Hmm.
know we're just starting your collegiate career, so let's not jump the gun too much here, but I think it's really interesting to be able to talk about the future of women's hockey, right?
Hmm.
So we've seen the incredible success of the PWHL. We've
Hmm.
seen just how much the enthusiasm is there, and anyone who's a women's hockey fan has known that this was like is not surprised by just
Hmm.
how the reception of women's hockey. But now to finally have everything, one league, the best players, all those sorts of things, I kind of want to know from your perspective. Especially unfortunately, as someone who's had to, well, I say unfortunately, but hasn't always been able to play with women throughout her career, right? You started off
Hmm.
playing with boys, which is
Yeah.
typically the story with women's hockey players.
Hmm.
When you look at the success and the sellouts and the fan engagement and just how passionate the great connection between the fans and the players,
Hmm.
first of all, what does that mean to you, knowing that that's something that could be down the line for you?
Yeah. I mean, I think it gives you such, or or me, it gives a such different look on the future because after like a year, 2 years ago, I was like, I don't know what I would do
Mm.
after university, right? Because you wouldn't, you would make hopefully get the opportunity for the national team, but other than that, like you wouldn't have like a league to consistently play in. But now looking at it, it's like a whole new perspective change. Now after college, you have something to look forward to train for even harder. So I think that I guess kind of changed my perspective on my future. Hopefully getting the opportunity to play in that league someday.
Yeah, and I guess as well, like when you see just how passionate the fans are and how
Yeah,
enthusiastic the fans are, when
yeah,
you and now I can't wait to see where it will be when you inevitably join the PWHL. But what does it mean to you to also see that the fan engagement, right? Like there's just
yeah,
like it's great from a player perspective to be able to see that there is potential here, but
yeah,
when you look up and even when you're at a game or you watch it on TV, you can literally just watch it on TV and see
yeah.
the engagement. What does that mean to you from a fan perspective?
I think no, it's incredible, incredible because the men's hockey always like they always have an amazing fan base, which is awesome, but the women's side not always as much. So knowing that in the first year of the league, you can't imagine how big it's going to be in the next couple of years. Um, and I think having that support from all the cities, I think, is truly amazing. And I think it's only going to get better from there because when you're on the ice and hearing the fans, it's like wow, like this is a fun game. Everyone's engaging. It's loud. It gets you kind of fired up, and I think it's so cool. And I have yet to go to a game, but I think here in town, I think I'm super excited for that. And I really hope I can go to one, at least one.
Yeah, you definitely. I've said this before, but I've been to NHL games, NBA games, MLB games, all these
Yeah,
different leagues, and there is nothing that has compared to my experience with the PWHL and women's
yeah,
hockey. Um,
that's awesome.
it's just such an inclusive, such a supportive space,
Hmm.
and they are very passionate. So, which should come as no surprise because women's hockey, that's where it's at, and that's it's just it's always great to see that support, and especially in the first season, there were ups and downs, but at no point were those ups and downs reflected in attendance, right? Attendance,
Yeah,
like again, sellouts, regular sellouts. It's just been incredible to see. So I'm excited to see how things go in the next 4 years, and then you'll
yeah.
you'll be playing there.
I hope so. I hope that opportunity comes by.
Yeah,
That would
yeah,
be
yeah.
awesome.
We're all rooting for you.
Thank you.
As has become a tradition in on this show, we end things before I say goodbye. Unfortunately, with a fun. I think I've dubbed it "Not 20 Questions," where I'm going to ask you a few questions. I was going to say a bunch. They're not a bunch, but there are a few questions that have been scientifically proven to really get to know the one and only Morgan Jackson. And this has been put together by the crack team here at the Rinkside Rundown podcast, which I always give a shout out to my dog because he does the majority of the work on these. So he's looking at me right now, so he wanted me to give you a shout out there. We're gonna get started with that. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay,
I'm ready.
perfect. So from this past season,
Yeah.
what are you most proud of?
I think helping, I think my team, my league team, to like a successful season. I think that was a lot of fun, and that team meant a lot to me. So
Good. Okay, great answer. How would you, for the folks who have unfortunately not been able to see you play, how would you describe your style of play?
yeah, I think aggressive, um, speedy. I hope, and I think creative in the offensive zone. I like to have fun there. So
All right,
definitely,
that's good. That's good. Love scoring, so that's great.
yeah.
What I always put the caveat when we say off season, there's never really an off season for an athlete. There's obviously always training and prep and adjusting your training program, your how you're eating, diet plans, all those sorts of things. But when we do think about the off season, what does an off season look like for you, and how do you think it's changed, especially now as you're starting your collegiate career?
Yeah. Um, so it's just working out, you know what you hear, and hanging out with friends, going out for ice cream, going out for dinner, uh, with your friends, um, and going to ice, going to skills, in a town like 30 minutes away. It's actually probably, to be honest, pretty similar since growing up, but I guess maybe it has changed a bit. My brothers unfortunately don't play hockey with me anymore, so now I got to start going to those on my own. Um, but I'll always have my parents driving me or their support there. But other than that, like yeah, working out, hanging out with friends. But now that I'm older, I gotta start work too.
Mm.
So there's always the jobs involved too now that I gotta add in.
Yeah, what a drag jobs are. Yeah. Has Just a quick sidebar here, though, or sort of kind of an extension on that. Do you think has this off season, as you're entering your collegiate career, has this off season felt different than before?
Definitely, because coming here, I think it's probably the only thing on my mind the last month of the summer. every day I wake up or I'd have dreams about it. But just my mind was definitely changed about the training, just thinking about Northeastern. But yeah.
That's fair. Okay, so I want to know, what is your go-to pregame meal?
I'd have to go with a sandwich, I think.
Whoa, the first sandwich I've ever had on the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, the very first. All right,
No.
what's on the sandwich?
Okay. Mayo, only
Okay.
mayo. And then ham and cheese,
Okay.
and some tomato. That's
Okay.
all.
Okay. Is it
No
toasted or
lettuce.
is it toasted?
Yeah, the bread is toasted,
Okay.
but no lettuce. I'm not a lettuce fan in a
Ooh,
sandwich. I don't know
okay.
why or what
Some
it
hot
is.
takes here. Some hot takes. That's good. That's good. That sounds fantastic. Surprise! It's always like pasta or something like that. So, like I said, the first sandwich
Yeah.
on the podcast.
Awesome.
Congratulations! I'll
Thank you.
I'll mail you the award for that.
And a sandwich too.
Yeah, and a sandwich. Yeah, of course. No
Awesome.
lettuce, I promise.
Awesome.
So, as you've looked back on your career thus far, there have been a lot of dressing rooms that you've been a part of. When you think about those dressing rooms, who are some of the people that come to mind who really own the music in those dressing rooms?
Okay, I'd have to go with my teammate. Her name is Mira. She played music the last season, but it was a lot of country music.
Okay.
But
Anyone
it
in
was also a lot of
particular?
rap. Country, I think it was more Morgan Wallen,
Okay, that's fair.
or we go with some crazy rap music. I think kind of some like dancing music. But yeah, I'll have to save my favorite song for a bit.
Yes, because we're gonna get to that right now.
Yeah.
When you think about this being your favorite song, remember, it has to be. It's the only song that you can listen to when you listen to music. So there's always that caveat. So what is that song?
Okay, so I think it's Timber. I think it's by Kesha and Pitbull.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Um,
That's going back a few years. That's good. Okay.
I
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
I know. I was actually just thinking about it when I was talking about music. It was bringing me back memories. But it is my teammate and I. We before every game, like that's the song we dance to. Anywhere, like no matter what time. If it's a 7 a.m. game, we'll still be dancing to it or on the bus. So that holds the most memories too. So
I love
that's
that. Nothing beats consistency. So I appreciate that. Only a few last questions for you.
all.
I want to know what's something that remains on your bucket list.
I would have to say either going to Hawaii or Mexico and going snorkeling. I love turtles and I've never seen one. Well, I have seen some, but I'd want to go snorkeling and find some.
Okay, so I feel like you just kind of answered the following question, but I'm going to see if you have a different answer. What is something that people may not know about Morgan Jackson?
Okay, well, aside the turtles,
Yeah, besides the turtles, yeah.
I love hiking. This summer I did an overnight hike with my dad. I think it was 34K round trip. But we have a beautiful mountain where I live. So yeah, I love hiking. This is way different, but I also used to play in a band and a jazz band at my old public school. I played the trumpet for I think 3 or 4 years. But I also played the piano too. So I wouldn't say musician, but I definitely used to play a lot of music instruments.
Okay, so this brings up the inevitable follow-up question, which is, do you still play those instruments?
No, I don't have a trumpet anymore, but I still have a piano And I try to learn more pop songs now on the piano, but I kind of always get distracted and forget that I'm trying to learn the song. So I started this summer, but I did not finish it.
Okay. So now another inevitable follow-up question to that, which is, what was the last song you learned on piano? Do you remember?
Okay. I don't know if it was the last song, but the song that I'm best at is actually Dance Monkey by Tones and I. My dad found a YouTube video. I think he saw a YouTube video of this guy playing it in public. It's like, Morgan, you have to learn it. So he printed it off for me. It's 10 pages long, or 7, but 3 of them repeat. So, I actually have it like muscle memory, I guess.
I think you just did it right there. I think you just started right there.
Did you hear it too?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. That was good. That was good. It was spot on. It was spot on. Yeah.
Awesome.
Last question for you. Always like to end on a really profound question, I suppose. What is something that motivates and inspires you? And that can be either personally or professionally, or both if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think it would have to be my parents, who I think who wake up every day and go to work. They have that consistency and that drive to support us and pay for everything, all the hockey. Whew, that's a lot. So I think watching them work hard for the 3 of us kids is inspiring, and I think it only motivates me to be better at my sport. And even them just like telling me they support me, I think, or like we talked about them coming out and supporting, coming to the games. I think that also motivates me to just go and work my hardest.
Okay, so just make sure that they listen to this entire episode so they specifically get that shout out at the end, because that was great. I always love, like I said earlier, I always love when like sports, it isn't just one person, it isn't just the athlete, it takes a village, and it's always great to be able to give the shout out to the people who have had to invest not only money, and hockey being one of those more expensive ones, arguably the most, but also, time, all those sorts of things. There are a lot of sacrifices that come into that. So I always love when this is great. We can wrap things up with that. That's a perfect way to wrap this up. So shout out to your parents and to your family.
Yep. Shout out to them. Yeah, I couldn't have done it without them.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Now I'm going to leave this with a giant smile on my face, and just know, Morgan, I cannot appreciate you enough for taking the time. There are a lot of changes that are happening in your life. You're embarking on a big part of your life, and for the fact that you were willing to take some time to hang out with me today means everything. So I can't thank you enough. So thank you so much for hopping on the show, for taking time out of your busy off season. This has been great. This has been fantastic. So thank you.
No, thank you, Chris. This has been an opportunity, and I'm very excited I get to share my story on something. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Heck yeah, and I can't wait to have you back on. So we'll make sure that happens. And there you go. For Morgan Jackson, I'm Chris Sinclair, and this has been the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Cheers.